Hello and welcome to this latest episode of LBTV. I'm your host, Mark Jeffries, and in the next 20-ish minutes, we're going to explore how modern cloud-scale load balancing can give your business a much-needed digital advantage. You'll learn about the journey to agile load balancing and application security from some of the best in the business. So first, we all know that IT teams are held accountable for the SLAs for application delivery and availability. So let's jump in and find out how Swapnil Hendre, who's the Director Solutions Engineering and Design at VMware, handles exactly this.
One of the kind of mandates we have within VMware IT is there should be a redundancy and resiliency for any application which is deployed. For every application we deploy, we need to ensure that we adhere to certain SLAs. So pretty much 99% of the applications which are deployed in our production are load balanced.
Well, it's no surprise that load balancing plays a mission-critical role in VMware IT for applications. That's why they've recently upgraded their load balancing capabilities. So now, let's learn about migration to NSX Advanced Load Balancer by RV Networks.
So when you look at the entire load balancing landscape, when we decided to migrate our workload from our existing load balancer solution, which was F5, to RV, as you can see on the screen, there are like four different scenarios we had. The two of them were the migration scenarios, and two of them were completely new deployments. So for example, we had the F5 load balancer spread across our lot of our remote sites. The first plan was to migrate the virtual server configurations and then decommissioning those F5 load balancers as we continue. And we completed that recently. We migrated all of our remote sites. Now the next one was the VMware Cloud on AWS. As I mentioned, so we are on the cloud first journey and we are migrating as many applications as possible to VMware Cloud on AWS. So since this was a new initiative, we started there with Avi ground up. So the first situation I'm talking about remote sites, that's like a brownfield situation. And the Avi on the VMware Cloud AWS, that was kind of a greenfield. We started with Avi there. Same goes with our next initiative, the Avi integration with Tanzu Kubernetes Grid. So we are in the process of migrating our monolithic applications to Tanzu Kubernetes Grid. And the automation is the key there for us. So we started there with Avi as well as a greenfield. And the last but not least, the data center migration. That's the biggest migration we are doing. The VMware IT has a huge environment. We have about 4,400 VIPs, like 1293 iRules, and about 500 odd monitors we had to convert. So right now we are in the middle of the data center migrations. So the first initiative, remote site migration, is complete. The rest of three initiatives are in progress as we speak.
There are several use cases for RV in the project. Now, while this sounds like a big undertaking, there are some best practices in planning and executing the migration that can lead to both time and cost savings.
With the migration we have been doing recently, the critical applications, we do almost like 3 to 4 weeks of planning. We do testing in dev environment, QA, stage, load testing, and so on. And when we are ready for production, we completely automate the switch over from the F5 to Avi. And the way we do it, we simply write the scripts which will disable the VIPs on one side, enable the VIPs on other side. It is more complicated than it seems, but we automate that. And due to automation, we simplify the entire process. And our average time for us to do the cutover, the average service disruption is less than 3 minutes. That's a maximum. I think we have set kind of bar for ourselves. We do ask for the additional maintenance window, but 3 minutes is the migration that we perform.
Before we move forward, let's first find out what challenges were associated with the load balancing approach provided by F5 appliances that were previously in place, and what might have driven the need to change load balancing strategies.
So the F5s were used as a load balancer for a while now, and there were several challenges we are facing with F5. As you can imagine, if anyone of our audience is a load balancer administrator, they can relate to this, that anytime something goes wrong with any application, the load balancer person need to come on the call and prove that it is not a load balancer problem before they even look at it, the application side, right? So it's like the guilty until proven innocent. So the challenge what we are facing is lack of visibility. So if you want to look at the F5 traffic or identify what's really going on, you need to enable the iRules. You need to log the traffic. Then we also need to take packet captures. Then you do need to do TCP dump. It takes a long time or it used to take a long time to identify the root cause. And it's not just that the load balancer person was getting called, we are losing the valuable amount of time. Anytime there is outage or service disruption, it used to take a really, really long time. So that was one of our biggest challenge. The second challenge was that our existing load balancer, we had some issues implementing the WAF solution. So we are looking for a new solution which will provide us a WAF protection out of the box. And we're looking, to be honest, just analytics and give the empower our applications team instead of us getting on the call and saying that, hey, let me show you how this is not a load balancer problem.
Self-service and power to the applications team. Now that is a different approach altogether. And it makes sense when an organization is trying to deliver hundreds of apps. Now, let's see how this shift has made app teams more efficient and productive.
VMware has about close to 350 plus applications. It's impossible for load balancer administrator to know every application. But on the other hand, let's say you are application owner, you know your application, how it works. And if I show you how the data flow looks like and give you the complete visibility, the resolution for a problem is very, very quick.
All in all, this has been a helpful shift in operations and provided new visibility and actionable analytics to the teams that need it the most. This has also cut down the time to innocence. So one of the things commonly brought up around migrating to RV from F5 is reduction in complexity around troubleshooting and iRules.
Every time you write a iRule, it adds a load uh, on your infrastructure, right? So it's a processing time and the overhead is there. Also, it adds additional complexity. One of the things we are looking for is seeing that can we eliminate the iRules for us. And as a migration process, that was one of the things we are looking for. And to give you example, we had one iRule which is being used pretty much every application, every other application, I mean, is JSession ID persistence. So the goal here is to persist based on the JSession ID. So it was pretty long iRule we had to write, and we had to keep maintaining it over the period of years. We noticed that with the AVI, there is the application cookie allows us to eliminate that kind of iRule. So to summarize, analytics, security, and reduction in complexity, those were three things which were key for us.
The ability to automate is important for reducing complexity and human error. Automation is all the more important for the high volume of applications that IT teams have to support. It can be deployed in a lot of different ways, so let's see what VMware was looking to automate during the migration.
Anytime you're migrating from one platform to other, you want to ensure that you have a path of migration which is seamless, right? So our first requirement was if we are migrating from F5 to AVI, we want to have the automation tool which will help us with the migration.
Enabling self-service for the apps teams has allowed quicker adoption of containerized applications. Now more than ever, teams want to launch new apps faster. So let's see how the Tanzu integration helped with this piece of the puzzle.
The second thing is, as I was saying before, we are on our journey to go towards the containerized applications, right? We are moving our monolithic applications to containerized applications. So the Tanzu Kubernetes grid was one of the projects that we are working on. And recently we went live with that application there. Now there our goal was complete hands-off deployment when it comes to the load balancer config. So we wanted to empower our application team so that when they deploy their application on the container, All we have to provide them is annotations, which will enable them to integrate with the AVI. And once it integrated with the AVI, as soon as the application is deployed, the virtual service gets configured, pool members should get configured, and IP address should get allocated automatically through the DNS provider, and the IP address should get registered in DNS. And the reverse is also true. When you want to dismantle the application, you don't need to call any of the other infrastructure owners to do this process. So we automated that process end to end, and that was one of the key things for us. Like it's like it improves our go-to market. So in the past, like if you want to deploy a new application, you first have to call like several teams, get them on the call, explain what the situation is and what you need to do, and you have to keep repeating it every application after application. So we wanted to obviously get away from that, and that's where Avi Tanzu Kubernetes grade automation that helped us a lot. Also, another thing we are looking at is capacity on demand, right? So we want to ensure that the capacity is allocated when we need it.
The Tanzu use case is clearly well addressed by the NSX Advanced Load Balancer. Let's find out what was the one feature that convinced them to make the decision to move forward with the migration.
The advanced analytics was the one which I personally was attracted to the most, and then my team pretty much said same thing. So for example, if you see in this slide, right, so there is obviously support across the bare metal virtualized containers for public cloud, private clouds, but the key thing here is the end-to-end tracking. So I can look at the round trip time for the transactions, and I can quickly pinpoint where exactly is the problem. We also have the ability to go back in time and say, hey, what when there was service degradation at 1 a.m. in the morning, so show me the logs between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. and then look at the log analytics and then identify what exactly went wrong.
Analytics, of course. Who doesn't love clear information about application performance and help troubleshooting potential bottlenecks? But let's hear about the other features that made life easier but were not available with the previous deployment.
We have a distributed model with Avi. So Avi is a distributed load balancer. With our current load balancer, it's not really a distributed load balancer. So it is like every site, let's say there are two load balancer at a time. But here I can have one single control plane. From there, I can analyze what's happening across all the infrastructures. So that actually wasn't available with our previous load balancer. If I want to troubleshoot the problem, I have to go through each and every one of them. But here, I don't have to do that. I can do this everything from single pane of glass. And the credit goes to like separating the data plane and control plane, which wasn't available before.
You know, having the ability to analyze applications across all the infrastructures is such a huge win. Not only does it increase operational efficiency, but it also allows you to be agile when supporting application teams. It seems that every organization is a multi-cloud enterprise, and VMware IT is no different. Let's see what Steve Alley, Systems Engineering Director at VMware, has to say about the customer experience.
That journey to the cloud is every customer seems to experiencing it a little bit differently, but it's definitely another one of those top of mind initiatives and projects that seems to be popping up everywhere. And the beauty of Avi Network specifically is that we're there with you that entire journey. And yes, we absolutely support Azure, AWS, GCP, any mixture of on-prem and public cloud or private cloud type environments. That again sort of points back to the underlying architecture and the fact that with a distributed data fabric, we can deploy services, these application services and load balancing services in any of those clouds. And it's a pretty seamless migration when it comes to shifting application workload from one cloud environment to the next. And that's the whole point. And specific to how we compete with the native cloud tools that exist, because I don't think it's any secret that AWS and Azure have load balancing services, obviously, but they're very native tool sets to those environments.
Big question raised. Do you need to run NSX to use RV, even though it's called NSX Advanced Load Balancer? Well, the short answer is no. RV is called the NSX Advanced Load Balancer since it's part of the NSX family brand, but operates independent of NSX. Let's hear how customers, including VMware IT, are handling it.
A lot of customers have a mix of deployment methodologies. NSX is certainly a well-supported one, and we have many customers that are deploying Avi alongside or in their NSX deployment as well. The branding aspect of it, though, shouldn't be confused for the supportability of all the different ecosystems and environments that we do deploy alongside of or support.
And there you have it. I hope that hearing this first-hand experience about load balancing and application security has shown you how easy it can be to give your business a digital advantage. For more information, you can visit rvnetworks.com/load-balancer-refresh-F5 or just sign up for one of the VMware hands-on workshops at info.rvnetworks.com/workshops. I'm your host, Mark Jeffries, and I'll see you on the next episode of Load Balancer TV.